Okay. Hi, I'm Michelle and Joanne, and we're
Hello.
going to give you a summary of what we talked about tonight,
Yeah.
in case you were not able to make it. So one of the things we're talking about is the common application, and I think we'll start there. If you haven't already started your applications, you really need to start them. We'll start with Joanne talking about the common application and talking about the essay and just a little bit about that. And then what I'll do is talk about college selection and things that we should be looking for there. So Joanne, if you want to get started.
Okay, sounds good. So the Common Application is accepted by, it's over 800 schools now. So very typically, students do need to fill out the Common Application. There are other application platforms, though. The Coalition application came out a couple of years ago. There's now 4 schools that will only take the Coalition application: University of Florida, University of Washington, University of Maryland, and now Virginia Tech. So if a student has one of those 4 on their list, they have to use the Coalition application. So I now have lots of students who fill out the Common Application, they fill out the Coalition application, and then sometimes some schools just have their own specific applications. So a student might even have to do that. But when we're talking about majority of students, they are filling out the Common Application, and we just wanted to go over a couple of things as students begin to work on that. So the first thing you need to do is just you have to go ahead and create an account with Common Application, commonapp.org. And I'm going to share my screen so that I can bring up my Common Application. I have a little test that I use. So you can take a look and see what you're getting into. So this is my practice account. So this is where you start. You'll go right on the tab that says Common App, and then you have these sections over here that you need to fill out. Just your basic demographic information and some family stuff, and then your high school information, testing, and activities. As you fill these out, you'll get green check marks on the side, so you know they're done. And then I suggest to students you use this preview button over here, because this is what the college admissions people are going to see. So you want to go through each section on that preview button and take a look at all the information to make sure that it is correct.
Hey, do you want to talk about activities before you move on from this?
Sure.
And
yep. So you can enter up to 10 activities. And I wind up spending a lot of time with students on this activities section because you want to be very careful about how you're recording these. I say to students, make sure that those first few are the activities that you definitely want to have the admissions people pay attention to, because I think sometimes they just skim the rest of them. But this is what it will look like as you enter each activity. It's going to ask you what type of activity is, any leadership position that you might have, describing it. They give you like this much space to describe it, so you're going to have to be concise. And then it asks you a few other questions so that they get an idea of the type of activity that it is. And then you can keep adding here. This view activities tutorial can be really helpful. So I would say before you start this section, do the tutorial so you can get an idea of what they're looking for. And then remember this preview button at the end so that you can take a look. Did you have anything else to add on activities, Michelle?
No, you covered it. I get a lot of questions on the activities button, what should be included and what should not be included. And really you want to make sure that what's included is, I'm sorry, my battery I just got a notice. I apologize. I lost my train of thought there. But no, I thought you covered it well. And I do recommend watching the activities tutorial. So that'll tell you what's a good activity. You want to make sure that it's not things like I like playing video games as your number one activity.
Right.
You know, do something where you're actually actively involved in something. And I tell people we want to make sure that we have activities that are not just to check a box. So try to relate the activities, right? My mom made me volunteer all these out. You know, if you're going to be a teacher and you're a volunteer helping kids learn to read, it is those types of activities that we want to highlight and put towards the top. Is that so? So that's just what I would offer. So I'm going to let you continue talking for just a minute.
And you can easily rearrange your activities. So just start putting them in, and then you can go through and rearrange them after you look at the preview screen to, make sure that you have the ones that are most important to you as the first couple. Then there's the writing section. So this is your common application essay that you will write somewhere else, and then you're going to put it in this box, or you can use the Google Drive for your essay, and it shows you the word count here. So you're going to work through all these sections of the Common App. When you're finished with that, you have to go to the college search button and start entering in your colleges. I'm going to put Temple in, for example, and you hit search, and you check mark that, and you add it to your list. Then you go over to the My Colleges tab, and that's where it's listing. So I have Temple University, I have University of Delaware, and I have University of Richmond, because now each of these colleges, they have their own questions. Click on there, go through general, go through academics. You have to go through each section for each specific college now. If you go over to the dashboard, it will list your colleges, and it will actually list any writing requirements that each college has. University of Delaware, 5 optional questions.
So, and they're not optional, right, Joanne? Right. It says the word optional, but they're not optional.
Mandatory options, we call them, yes.
Right, so exactly.
You are doing those questions. So you're doing the main Common App, then you go to college search, enter in your colleges, then you go to the My College tab, and you're answering those questions. So that's why we're saying to students, get this started now, because you can come and go. You're saving as you go along, and it'll have all your information when you go back, but you want to get this started because it's going to be, rather time consuming to be going through this. And you can always get help over here. So any questions for each section, it has all different help buttons, and you can get help through there.
And you can certainly ask us, if you need something, just shoot us an email, or I'm not sure about this, or what do you think about this activity? And remember, as we've talked about, that Joanne will give a quick review of your Common App essay. So make sure to get that to us. So I would say, the long weekend is coming up. Make sure you're working on your essay and or your Common App. And I think that leads nicely into college selection. So there are 3 things that I tell people that we want to look for in college selection. And individually, I'll probably be talking to you about this. But the first thing is we need to keep in mind that we go to college to get a job. I know I work with a lot of athletes, and they think they go to college to play a sport, and that's not actually true. You go to college to get a job. So we want to make sure that the college has your major. So I don't care how much you like the school. If it doesn't have your major, that's not a good fit for you. The second thing that you need to look at is kind of the environment. Do you want a big school? Do you want a small school? If you filled out those tiles that Joanne offered, you can get a sense of the type of school. So make sure, and this highly charged, I'm hesitant to even say it, but in this highly charged political atmosphere, if you tend to lean a little to the right, and this leans very far to the left, or vice versa, you lean to the left and this leans to the right. Those are things that you can look at. And where I tell people to find that information out is typically in the cafeteria, in the student union hall if they have one. Look on the poster boards, see who's coming to speak, listen to conversations, make sure that you fit in, because one of the things that adds to the time spent in school is changing colleges. So we want to do this right the first time. So make sure of that. And then financial considerations for many families, financials have to be a consideration. The most expensive college for most families is going to be an out-of-state public school versus a private school. So the sticker price may be higher on a private school, but remember, and we'll talk about that again and again, the sticker price is not what you'll pay. So you just need to keep that in mind. And then when I'm giving workshops, what I like to say is notice what's not on there, brand name of the school. So I know, especially on the East Coast, we have a lot of people on the East Coast that brand name really makes a difference. from a pride standpoint, but if it's $60,000, if you can get into a brand name school, you could almost go for free someplace else. So just make that, if you have the money, then my goodness, go ahead and spend it. But if you're having to take on debt so that you can go to a particularly branded school, I will tell you from an employer's standpoint, it does not matter, especially where you get your undergraduate degree. Now, certainly if you're going on to graduate school, it can make a difference in graduate school. But again, if you're going on to graduate school, then there's extra expenses there. So just be mindful of the financial piece. And what I recommend to my clients is have that conversation. Tell son or daughter, this is what we can afford. I'm not saying don't apply there, but when we're reviewing the aid award letters, which we'll do in February, March, when we're reviewing those letters with you, have a certain amount, and if it's above that amount, then that has to be a no, and kind of be hard and fast. But have that conversation today, not in April when emotions are high and, oh gosh, I didn't know, but I got into Columbia, how can you not let me go there? So just be mindful of those kinds of things. And like I said, make sure they have your major. And if I haven't talked to you yet, I do want to go over U Science and make sure that we have that conversation and we're really firm on our major. It's kind of sometimes hard to read on your own, or people don't do it. So,
right.
So anything you want to add about college selection?
I would say at this point, you want to be focusing in on your application list. And I typically recommend 5, maybe 8 colleges most.
Right.
You want to be able to really put together a great application for each of your colleges. So when I see students that have 24 colleges on their application list, I know they're not going to be able to do a good job on 24 colleges. They've got a lot of supplemental essays to do. There's too much involved. So really be thinking now about your application list and getting that pared down and focused to several schools that you would absolutely attend if accepted and be very happy there.
And get those done. So I have some clients that really want to apply to 12 or 15 colleges. So what I say is pick your top 5, maybe 8. I'm with Joanne on that, maybe up to 8, where you'd be happy to go. Get those applications in before November 1st. Right. You will have decisions by December. If you don't get into any of the 8 schools, then we can talk about adding to your list. But pick your top 8 now at most. 5 is a good number. 5 is a good number. 3 is probably my minimum, just to be on the safe side. I like 5, but unless you're an athlete, you know where you're going to go.
Right.
So the other thing that we're going to talk about a little bit is getting those letters of recommendation. And I'll let Joanne address how many to get. But in the email, attached to this email, you'll see a form that we recommend you fill out and hand to the teacher. Would you please mind writing me a letter of recommendation? Here's some information about me. And it just says, here's the due date. Here's some information, some outside activities that I do. If you're an Eagle Scout, put on that you're an Eagle Scout, those kind of things, so that it helps the professor write or the teacher write a good letter of recommendation. That is especially true for guidance counselors because typically they don't know you as well.
Yes. Yeah.
And do that in the next 2 weeks, get those letters of recommendation requested. But what about the number of recommendation letters? You
really want to check with each college on their admissions website. They will tell you. So for example, University of Pittsburgh, they'll say thanks, but no thanks. We don't want any of your letters of recommendation. Other schools will say, we require 2 teacher letters. We also require your school counselor letter, and we'll take 5 optional letters. So you really want to, check each school website. Generally, I recommend to students asking 2 teachers, and then sometimes a coach, a boss, someone to speak out, about you outside of the classroom. That way you have those letters, and then if you are able to use them, you can. And if you're applying to a place that doesn't want them, they're just sitting. You do need to find out, though, from your school counselor, your procedure for making sure that those letters get to your colleges. So get a meeting scheduled with your school counselor now that it's the beginning of the school year. Let them know where you're applying, what you're planning to study. This will help them to write your letter. And then also ask them what the procedure is for transcripts and letters of recommendation.
Yeah. And then, like I said, ask early for those letters of recommendation because everybody starts asking them. The more information you can give, oh, I know what I was going to say. We often get asked about, well, I know so-and-so, or my dad's friends with, somebody famous, that sort of thing, or what about an alumni recommendation? So you're a little bit better served to have somebody that actually knows you.
Yeah.
So if they don't know you, then at least sit down with them and have a meeting with them before you ask them to write a letter of recommendation. What you don't want is just a generic letter like, he's a great kid. You want them to have some information. So I'm almost erring on the side of have a real letter of recommendation that's written that speaks about you as a person versus just the name who signed it. Does that make sense? So that's what I would recommend.
Right. Very good.
So letters of recommendation. Anything else that we were going to cover tonight?
I think that is it. That was good. And if you have any questions, reach out to us in terms of applications and get those essay drafts to me. I'm doing a read of your first essay draft, and I'll get back to you with some comments. This really is like having a part-time job. Senior year, fall, getting this in. I know it's a lot. You're busy with school now, but this does feel like a part-time job, and it's not going to help to put it off. It all needs to be done. So start doing it gradually, getting it done.
Yep. The sooner you get it done. So this is a 3-day weekend. Work on your essay. Work on your essay. Work on your essay. And if that is done, fill out the Common App.
Yep.
And get your college list to us.
Yes.
So, and if you haven't scheduled your call with me, then make sure to schedule your call with me, and I'll help you with your college list as well. If you're having trouble narrowing it down, again, just reach out to us. Or if you're having trouble even finding 3 schools, then reach out to us. Yep. We're here to assist you, so just make sure that you use us as we're a resource for you, and we're happy to help. So please make an effort to, attend these when we have them, and reach out if you have questions.
Great.
So I think that's all we had for tonight. Yes.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. All righty. Thanks a lot, and we look forward to getting your essays.
Great. Good night.